All right, guys, I'll try to get through this. I usually try to do these during nap time, but we're kind of thrown off on our routine today. So bear with me. I may have to stop and cut and go back into it. So I wanted to give you an update. So a little update on our animal-based, carnivore-like diet that we're doing, lifestyle. I'd rather call it a lifestyle change. It's going great. We're really about a solid month in. I don't really know what day we really were like, okay, we're just going to go in and do it more carnivore. And like I said, we're not doing this to be a part of the carnivore cult or to do some hypey fad diet. We just wanted to feel better. And my little buddy, he's probably going to hop in behind me here. So, Zach update. Zach is down right around 25 pounds and feeling great. That was kind of the main reason he wanted to buckle down, was to lose weight. So 25 pounds in just 5 to 6 weeks. I mean, I think that's huge. His biggest win, though, he keeps just being amazed. He says, I just have no back pain. And it's so good. He has had this nagging pain for years. He's a butcher, hence my name, The Butcher's Wife, for the channel. And so living with this like ongoing pain that, you know, he was taking constant anti-inflammatories, constantly trying to go to the chiropractor and get it worked out. And he doesn't have that anymore. You know, he says sometimes when he like if he gets up from sitting from a long time, he said there might still be a little bit of tightness. But he said that pain, like that nagging pain, is just gone. So that's his big wins. For me, I'm down a few more pounds. I'm not doing this necessarily to lose weight. I've been pretty content with my weight over the past 8 or 9 months, actually, for once in my life, which is a big deal for me. But I am still going down a little bit on the scale. The more I decrease the honey and stuff that I like to put in my yogurt and whatnot, you know, this has all been a gradual process for me. I didn't just do this overnight. But the more I go decreasing the honey or like the handful of fruit or whatever that I was grabbing, and upping my fat, the less I want the sweet stuff. So that's huge. I'm learning a lot about leptin signaling and how if your leptin signaling is wrong, that could be why I always wanted to binge. So back in like when I was late teens, early 20s, I would binge on junk food and then I would purge it with laxatives. I couldn't throw up, or I probably would have done that. But I would binge. I would binge on donuts and fast food. I remember Project Prom. I ate so many Krispy Kreme donuts that night. The next day I was so sick. It was horrible. So learning a lot about leptin signaling. If that's something that you've struggled with binging or sugar addiction, which a lot of us are addicted to sugar, whether we want to admit it or not, I encourage you to look up Kelly Hogan and Rebecca Heischman. Rebecca Heischman breaks down a lot of things like fat adaptation and leptin signaling. Her channel is called Tailored Keto Health. And she's a Christian. She just shines for Jesus. She wants to help people. She was so severely emaciated. I can't remember if she was down to like 72 pounds or 62 pounds. She was super sick and nothing worked until she went on a pretty much carnivore diet. And now she eats sourdough. She eats fruit. Please hear me when I say I'm not demonizing any food groups, guys. We just want to feel better. I have a beautiful friend who is making like fresh milled flour bread and all kinds of things, and it's helping her. It's healing something for her. She's doing a lot of research on it through like Sue Becker, I think, has a lot of stuff about bread. I'm not demonizing any food group. If it works for you, I'm so happy. I can't even do the fresh milled flour. I react to it right now. Is my goal to hopefully be able to introduce some other stuff again? Yes and no. At this point, I'm feeling so good eating this way. I don't know that I really want to reintroduce a whole lot of stuff. I would love to be able to just have like some salsa with my burger bowls and whatnot. Salsa marinara. I can't even do marinara because I don't know if it's the nightshade aspect of the tomatoes or if it's more of the sugar carbohydrate in the tomatoes right now. But yeah, I would like to be able to reintroduce that stuff. But right now, like, I feel so good. I'm content eating this way. I'm not saying this is forever, but so is my goal to reintroduce? Maybe. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Inflammation down for me big time. Not having the mastitis like I was having if you've listened to my other videos. My mind just feels so much better. I've taken notes because I'm trying to keep these short for you guys. I've tried to keep them under 30 minutes. One thing that I've noticed this week, and like I said, we only noticed like 4 or 5 weeks, my motivation to do things is just so much better. little things that like I used to procrastinate on, or that I would really have to have like a mental pep talk with myself, like do the 5 4 3 2 1 thing where you're like, okay, I'm just gonna do it, 5 4 3 2 1, go do it. And if you don't know that, that's kind of something you can use as a trick. If you don't want to do your dishes or something, just look at it and say 5 4 3 2 1 and just launch and go do it. Learn that off the, I don't know, it was a Mel Robbins book or something, I don't know. Anyways, things that I used to have to really like pep myself up to do, I just go do them now. Like, it's not a big deal. So, and you know, I don't know if you've struggled with depression or ever been just overwhelmed by like daily tasks, but if that's something you've struggled with, it's quickly eliminating for me with this way of eating, with no sugar and no plants really. Self-awareness is better, and just like realizing like I do have triggers, like when I'm overwhelmed I want to eat, or when I'm coming home from doing something and you know I've been around a lot of people, I want to eat to like calm myself down, and just thinking, okay, am I really hungry, or should I just drink some water and see if I really am hungry or what's going on. So those are some things for me, for good things. Again, I want to mention Rebecca Heischman and Kelly Hogan's channels. Kelly Hogan's channel, I think, is called My Zero Carb Life. And at first when I started watching her, I was like, who is this woman? Like, she was a lot on just the random episode that I happened to get. And my kids walked in, they're like, who is that? But the more I've watched her, she really is, she's a Christian, she's a light for Jesus, she's an encouragement. She has so many healing stories of people who have used this way of eating to heal things, and a lot of them maybe have introduced stuff again, but a lot of them haven't. So I just really encourage you to get on those channels and just listen to some of these real life accounts of people that are healing things. Again, the more fat I eat, the better I feel, the more satiated I feel, the less I'm craving sugar. For my kids that are eating this way, and like I said, we're still buying a little bit of fruit, still having maybe a vegetable at supper, just being a lot more mindful of how much fruit they're eating in a day, because they are like me, that's all they want. They want that sweet hit, and so I do still allow it. I'm not depriving my children, but their moods are better, so much better, as far as like they're just not at each other's throats all the time so much. And it's winter time, we're cooped up a lot. We try to get outside as much as possible, but moods are better. Their focus is better when they're working on their schoolwork, just a lot better with that. And then one win today. So if you're a parent, I'm just going to encourage you, and I know it's going to sound weird if you don't do this type of thing, but you should kind of be checking in on your kids' bowel movements. And I'm not saying you should like sit there and watch them go, but maybe just like right before they flush, just take a peek at it and see what it's looking like. My one child who's had a lot of health issues has always just had very loose stools, like his whole life. I can literally count like on a couple hands like how many times he's had a solid stool. And so when we switched to raw dairy, it got a little better. But my lady who I love, who has the milk close to me, she's out right now. So I'm not driving as far as I should to go get some right now. We're kind of like just waiting. So it was kind of like back to being loose and whatnot. And since we've switched to eating like this, he's having solid bowel movements. And that's huge for him. And so if you are struggling with like IBS or ulcerative colitis or any of that kind of stuff, you know, I know they keep saying, you know, push the fiber, but you got to think of your intestines as, you know, like this very thin, almost like like a balloon, animal balloon, you know, like those real skinny ones. And if you keep thinking like when you're pushing all that fiber through there, or if you're eating nuts and seeds and all that stuff, like the chia seeds and the flax seeds and all that stuff that we think is healthy, you're constantly irritating that lining. And the more, if you think you tried to, like, let's think you tried to take a handful of straw and push that through one of those balloon animal balloons. Can you imagine how irritated that balloon's going to get and how quickly it might rip and become permeable? And so if you're dealing with leaky gut, I think maybe it would be good to just take a step back and be like, is this really what my gut is needing, the things I'm giving it? Personally, we're seeing great things with like broth and fat in the broth, and just pushing the fat to try to get that omega-3 in there, and all those things that can seal up that gut lining. So I'm not saying this for everybody. Please, this is not medical advice. Do your own research. Do what you feel God leads you to do. Pray on it. But just take a step back and think, is eating all these healthy fruits and vegetables really good for me, or is it irritating some things? Just some things to think about. We haven't even worked on strength training or walking as much as I'd like to. I love to walk. I could walk miles and miles every day. It makes me feel great. I love doing it. We haven't even started doing that, and I'm seeing better definition like in my abs and stuff than I've ever seen before. Okay, now my phone's starting to die, so I'm gonna have to really kick it up a notch here, and I've moved to sit on a seat instead of a bucket. So what am I eating consistently every day? What am I personally eating? So this is just me. Usually every morning I'm having a few pieces of bacon and a lot of whole milk Greek yogurt. I do put a tiny bit of vanilla and just enough honey to sweeten it to where it's palatable. I'm not making it a sweet treat anymore. Before, yes, I was almost treating it like a little, ice cream treat for me. No, I'm trying to get off the honey, so I'm just eating enough of it just to make it to where it doesn't taste like sour yogurt. So that's usually my breakfast. If I could do eggs, I would do eggs, but they're still messing with me. Even just the yolks are messing with me. Lunch is usually a can or two of sardines and maybe a ground beef patty, or like a quarter of a pound of ground beef or a half a pound of ground beef with lots of sour cream. And again, this has been all like a gradual process. Before I was eating like tons of cottage cheese. Not so much wanting that now. I want the sour cream and the yogurt. So that's usually lunch. And then dinner, I'm doing maybe pork sausage with a little bit of cabbage, chuck roast, steak bites, any of that kind of stuff. We love steak, of course, but it's crazy expensive. So a lot of times we do hamburger patties, just very simple stuff. And then for snacks, it's usually like beef sticks and a little bit of cheese. I'm not needing to snack like I used to. I used to want a snack every couple hours. 3 o'clock would roll around and I would just be ravenous for something, and it usually wanted fruit. I'm not snacking like that anymore. So usually just 1 or 2 bites of a beef stick and maybe a little piece of cheese here and there. I'm not eating a ton of cheese. So that's our kind of like where we're at with the eating and everything, the update on that. So why am I putting all this out there? Why are we doing this? I kind of touched base on my first video. I was so nervous in that video. I can't even go back and watch it because I was so hyped up but nervous. And I'm sure I slipped up and said things in not a great wording, or maybe slipped and said some words I shouldn't have even said. But I'm going to try to do better on that. So why am I doing this? So last year, I just kept hearing, I felt like God was telling me, stop consuming, start creating. And, I didn't know for sure what all that meant. I'm a photographer, so I already, create photos of people. And so I just didn't know like what that was going to lead to. But I knew I was supposed to stop consuming so much information on social media. I really struggle with getting off my phone. It's my Achilles heel. So, and I think a lot of people struggle with that. If you don't already check your screen time regularly, maybe like on a daily or weekly basis, I really encourage you to go to your settings. It's somewhere on your phone. It'll be like mobile health or, screen time or whatever. There's something on your phone that tracks it. And I just really encourage you to do that because, and if you're not on your phone, but you're still like on social media at work, like you've got the window open in the background all the time, it's really doing more to your mental health than you realize. So stop consuming, start creating. That's what I kept hearing. And so then around the fall, we started feeling really like led to somehow share tips that have helped us, but to relieve others of the money and stress that we ended up going through. So we spent thousands last year. It's crazy how much money we spent trying to figure out everything with Alpha-Gal, trying to figure out everything with like how to heal and what was really triggering us. And so we kept feeling like we needed to do it, but without charging people. And so YouTube, I don't know. I'm not making money with it yet. I hope to maybe one day make a little bit of income with it. I mean, anything helps. Even just $100 or $200 a month would be so helpful for groceries. But I don't know any other way to like get this information out there without charging people. I've thought about health coaching. I really don't know that I want to go and pay to get certified when I know most of the information is not even what I believe at this point, because a lot of it's many years old and just not information that I feel like was ever helpful in our situation. So kicking that around. So that was kind of where we were at with starting this whole YouTube thing. I don't know. Maybe nobody listens. Maybe 2 or 3 of you listen and you just keep my video on repeat so it looks like I'm getting more views. I don't know. Thank you, whoever is listening. But we today just want to talk about like changing our prayer life. And I'm not here to paint myself as some amazingly, beautifully devout Christian who's diligently studying her Bible like I should be, because I'm not. I need to be. Maybe y'all can hold me more accountable to do that. But God has also put things on my heart over the past year, 8 months, 6 months, whatever it's been. And I felt like I needed to share it, but I never did. And so a friend of mine, she would tell me, or she has told me before, delayed obedience is disobedience. She has said that. I won't mention her name, but she knows who she is. And so I just feel like the more I ignore these little nudges, the more I'm being disobedient. So trying to like put out what we're feeling. And so just felt like our prayers needed to change from, God, give us this miracle of healing, or give us this miracle of, financial windfall or whatever to make these problems go away, to, God, send us the work we need to do to get ourselves out of this mess, to get ourselves out of this pickle we're in. And so I just want to encourage you, if you've been praying for, to win the lottery, or if you've been praying for, I don't know, whatever it may be, that you change your prayers to, God, help me to pray for this to be in line with your will for my life, and send me the work to do to make those miracles happen, to see those miracles, to see your blessing in my life. So that's just one of the things we want to touch on today. I think so many, and I said this in one of my last videos, like I think so many of us are praying and we keep saying, well, I'm praying about it. But none of us are taking action. Like, what? Okay, great. I'm so glad you're praying about it. That's absolutely the first thing you should do. But what are you doing about it? Are you getting to work? Are you doing anything? I think a lot of us are abusing that bumper sticker verse. It's Psalm 46:10, the be still and know that I am God. Okay, yes, be still, rest in him. He is where you will find great rest, and only the peace that God can provide. But after a while, you got to quit being still and you got to get moving. So I want to encourage you to quit being stuck there. Yes, you should absolutely honor him, honor his sovereignty, honor his hand over your life, and that, yes, you can rest in him. Please hear me when I say that. But, get to work. Get going on something. I don't know what it is. Ask God, what is my first step to get going in this direction that I know, there's something that he's been nudging you to do. Okay? You can't tell me you've just been slacking around your whole life and he's never nudged you in a direction. You're like, no, God, that's not for me. No, you got the wrong girl. No, I can't do that right now. I'm in this season. I really want to encourage you to open up and surrender to what he's trying to tell you. So I really just don't have like any transitions on this. I'm sorry. I've just had so many thoughts going through my mind. And with this way of eating, I just feel like it's just been renewing my mind. And so I wanted to look up, like, what is the verse in the Bible that talks about renewing your mind? And it's Romans 12:12. It says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. And I just feel like eating this way has just peeled back so many layers on my brain to just everything. It's just like there's just been this moment of clarity. Like, why was I living in that fog for so long? And you don't realize you're in that fog until you're on the other side of it. You don't know how desperate or miserable, or I don't know what word you want to use, but you just don't know how bad it is when you're in the thick of it until you're on the other side of it. And so like I said, I wrote down some notes here. Eating this way has just changed so much, and I'm not trying to make an idol out of it. I know some of you are gonna come at me with that. I think I can go the flip side and tell you, I don't think it's right that our nurses are given pizza parties and then expected to work a 12-hour shift sharp and on top of their game for their patients. And I don't think it's fair that congregations are fed donuts and then expected to sit through a sermon and be clear-minded and open to what God is telling them when they've been hit with a sugar bomb. And I'm not nitpicking anybody. I'm not coming at you in any way. I'm just saying maybe we need to take a step back and look at all these things. I don't think it's fair to our kids that we're hyping them up on all this sugar and dye and all this stuff, and then we're getting mad when they can't sit still in class for 8 hours. I'm not coming at you. I'm just saying, can you just pause and look at the situation we're in and these messes that we are just constantly feeding ourselves? We're constantly in the play with it, So I think if you're looking around the times, I think the hour is near. You know, I think if we could take a step back and see the sand in the hourglass, I think we'd all be getting our butt in gear big time for a lot of things. And I'm one, you know, back in 2020, I went down all the rabbit holes. I was up all night, consumed by the things that are just now coming out. You know, it was bad. I was obsessed with it. I couldn't sleep. I was worried to death about my kids. You can't let that stuff consume you. So hear me when I say that. So, and I almost went to the other extreme. I don't want to hear about any of it, you know, like and Zach will say, well, you still got to be informed. Yes, I know. So, you know, yes, stay informed, but get your butt in gear. Start doing whatever it is you know you've been being nudged to do, and do it. Whatever has a stronghold on you, I want to encourage you to surrender it. And mine, big time, is my phone use, social media use. Before, I struggled with coffee and caffeine. I gave that all up in December. I was only drinking like 4 to 6 ounces a day because I had already weaned myself down because I knew it was making me irritable and anxious. And even just coming off those few ounces, I went through a withdrawal. I didn't have the headaches that I was scared I would have, but I did have a depression from it. I was like just zoned out. Like I was missing that caffeine hit. Coffee and caffeine are a psychotropic drug. So whether you want to admit it or not, it is a drug. Yes, it's acceptable in our society, but it is still a drug. And if it's got a stronghold on you, you need to think about going to the Lord and surrendering it. You know, maybe it's that weekend case of beer. Maybe it's a show that you've been feeling conviction over, that you know you shouldn't be watching it. You know it's giving you thoughts about someone other than your spouse. You know, I don't know what it is. I don't know what your stronghold is. I've got plenty of them. Guys, I am the worst of the worst. I'm a filthy sinner, just like anybody. I'm not painting myself as anything other than a filthy sinner that Jesus has saved. I am so grateful. I don't deserve a single mercy or any of the grace he's given me. I don't deserve any of these beautiful blessings he's given me. I'm telling you, we've got to start looking at things better. If you felt conviction over it, delayed obedience is disobedience. That's what my friend, it's like stuck in my head. And on the flip side of that, you know, whatever this one thing is, once you give it up, it's probably the one thing that's going to move the needle the most for you. And so that same friend, she also would tell me, you never know what's on the other side of your obedience. So, you know, that miracle you've been waiting for, maybe if you let go of that white knuckle grip of whatever you got it on, it might be right on the other side of it. Like, you just don't know. You don't know. So just some things to think about. Back in December, so I'm a photographer. I usually take December off. We've got 3 of our 5 birthdays in December. And I just want to be able to chill. When I take pictures, like, I want to get people's pictures back to them as soon as I can. It bugs me if I know they're waiting on them. Like, it's just how I am. I'm OCD, I guess. So usually I try to take December off, but this year, like, we needed the extra income, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do Christmas minis. I'm going to put in the extra effort. I got a very nice friend of ours let me borrow their truck, and I did a cute little setup. And telling you, I missed nap time today. I got rocks thrown at me. So throughout that time, it was like God just kept saying, you know, pick up your shovel and get to work. You got to pick up your shovel. And so I scheduled these minis, and when you know it, a blizzard came the first day of them. And so I had to cancel most of them. And I'm messaging everybody. I was like, I don't think we should try it. It was super windy. It wasn't just like a pretty light snow that would make pretty Christmas pictures. It was full on blizzard-like conditions. And one family, and I'm so grateful they did come. One family had already like trekked out. They were already on their way. And they're like, nope, we're coming. We're just going to do it. And so I had to go get my shovel out, and I had to get to work. And you know what? They were the most beautiful Christmas pictures I've ever done. The kids couldn't even hardly keep their eyes open because it was so windy, but it was just such a moment of God saying, get to work, Sarah. You know, quit making excuses. People would kill to need to do the job you're needing to do today. So I was so glad they showed up. I'm so thankful for every client that lets me take their pictures. Guys, you have no idea. So I just kept having that in my mind, like, pick up your shovel, get to work. And my cousin Lori she reposted someone's post. It was like they literally took the words out of my mouth that I'd been thinking, but they put it to context with the Bible. And so, you know, the Holy Spirit will confirm things. You know, if you think God's talking to you, just just look around. He will confirm it in songs. He'll confirm it in a random stranger that you bump into. He will confirm it. If you're asking him for clarity, he will confirm for you. And so Lori shared this post, and it was all about, you know, God didn't part the sea and then tell Moses and the Israelites to go there. Like, hey, go on and run. I've already parted the sea. You'll be fine. No, they were already obeying, and they were already in motion. They were already moving in agreement, you know, following Moses and leaving Egypt. And so it's Exodus 14:15. I ran out of room on my thing. I had to do it. But Exodus 14:15 in our Bible version, it says, it says, then the Lord said to Moses, why are you crying out to me? Tell the people to get moving. And so I just keep coming back to that. Like, we've got to get moving, guys. Okay, I'm cutting back in on this because I wanted to read a little bit more. Context matters when you're reading scripture, and I didn't want you to miss this part that really stood out to me too. So, Exodus 14, verse 15. Then the Lord said to Moses, why are you crying out to me? Tell the people to get moving. And it really does in my Bible have an exclamation point. It says, verse 16, pick up your staff and raise your hand over the sea. Divide the water so the Israelites can walk through the middle of the sea on the dry ground. And I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they will charge in after the Israelites. My great glory will be displayed through Pharaoh and his troops, his chariots, and his charioteers. When my glory is displayed through them, all Egypt will see my glory and know that I am the Lord. So I'm cutting in again on this video. Please don't miss that Moses actually parted the sea with the power of God. You know, God worked through Moses. So, you know, it wasn't like Moses just showed up and there was a sea and then boom, it just parted. No, he had to take action. He had to raise his staff. And, you know, I can only imagine what was going through his mind at that time, but we have to take action. We have to do things. We can't just sit around waiting for it to just happen. Yes, he is a God of miracles. I've seen him work miracles in my own life. I've heard of miraculous stories of, you know, just random huge things happening in people's life. Yes, that does happen, but I also think we have to pay attention that he works through our actions very often. So I'm going to cut that in. I probably won't be able to cut it in very well, but I'm putting it in here. So there you go. So naturally, when I went to cut that in, it ended up erasing part of my other video. So the last thing I wanted to touch on, I promise this is it. My kids have been studying Genesis and they're wrapping it up, and we've been talking about Joseph. And so it's just been like coming to me over and over, like, with our distractions we have, if Joseph had been distracted like we were. So Joseph, you know, you may think of coat of many colors. His brothers were super jealous and sold him and told their father that he was dead. And so then, you know, Joseph ends up getting thrown in prison. And so he's in prison with the chief cupbearer and the chief baker, Pharaoh's chief people. They'd gotten in trouble and they were in prison with him. And so I just keep thinking, like, if Joseph had been scrolling Facebook, or if Joseph had been distracted and not, you know, working with the gifts that he knew God had given him, he would have never been in tune with when the chief cupbearer and the chief baker came in and they were upset. He asked them, you know, why are you upset? And they said, well, we had these dreams. And of course, I'm paraphrasing, guys. Please read this on your own in Genesis. It's towards the end of Genesis. But he said, well, tell me your dreams. And he would interpret them. And he interpreted their dreams. And it was in that moment, you know, that just set in motion so many good things for Joseph and his family. If he hadn't stepped in and used his God-given gifts right then and there, you know, he eventually then was thought of at the time that Pharaoh needed someone to interpret his dreams. And so they brought Joseph to Pharaoh. And then Joseph was put in a place of leadership because he did interpret the dreams. And then, you know, Joseph was then able to give unimaginable forgiveness and unconditional love to his brothers and extend that to his whole family. He was able to then feed his whole family throughout that whole famine. And so I know I'm all over the place today, guys. I know, I'm sorry. And I had to cut it in and then it messed up the whole thing. If you think spiritual warfare isn't real, I beg to differ. Just try getting a point across about something. But I just want to have you simmer on, like, how much are you distracted? Please check your screen time on your phone and then take that and multiply it times the week or the month or the year.
I promise it's going to be a sobering number for you if you're anything like me. So I'm just going to leave you with that. I hope you have a great night. My kids keep telling me, Mom, you gotta tell people to like and subscribe. So please like the video. If it resonates with you, please leave me a comment or shoot me a message if you have me on social media. Like I said, the Holy Spirit works through confirmation all the time. I didn't know if anyone would watch these videos, and I have gotten a few messages of encouragement from people, and I appreciate those because it's hard to put yourself out there. It's hard to be on this side of the camera for me. So please like, subscribe, share this with somebody if you think maybe they need to simmer on whatever I've been rambling on about. It's so nice. The birds are chirping. I can hear frogs tonight. It's so good out. So spring is coming. Stay positive, keep seeking the Lord, and I'll see you guys soon.